Anyway, look, thanks for joining us. I mean, the thing is, it's nice to meet members as well. And I'm kind of thinking, well, actually, it's kind of almost a meet the member kind of thing as
Yeah,
well,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
and meet some of the members, you know, and talk about what music you're doing, because you play in Harry Jordan, the band
Yep.
Harry Jordan, which has got a huge following, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's really taken off. Really, really sort of went. I mean, yeah, as we were saying beforehand, you'll have to come and see it because Haley, who is Harry, is a sight to behold live. It's like gig and stand-up comedy all in one. It's a proper festival type band, if you know what I mean. Which is why we haven't done a lot in lockdown, because we sort of need the audience, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, we kept in touch, and we've got some stuff we've been sitting on, some stuff recorded, but yeah, we haven't done a lot of the stuff that other people have done. Let's do a collaborative track. It just doesn't work. We need to be in a room,
Yeah.
we need a crowd, and we'll throw in a cover we've never played before and that sort of stuff. So.
Yeah, well, it was a few weeks ago. I came up here and I was playing away, and I was just noodling around playing some riffs and something. And I went downstairs, and Cindy, she said, "Did you have fun?" I says, "It's not the same on your own.
Yeah,
It's just not the same." You know,
no.
and I just can't wait to meet the lads and, you know, have a bit of banter and get that interaction between the music. And you know, there's moments, isn't there, as a guitarist and any musician, when something works, where it might be an interaction between yourself and the bass player,
Yeah,
where there's just a little moment where it's so tight and it makes you both smile.
I realised years ago. I mean, I've got a studio here. Really, I can record. I've got Logic. I've got a band if I need it there. But I almost find there's too much. I open up and go, okay, so what do I do? Do you know, where do you start? There's almost too much. I need that limiting factor of a band, and I like bouncing ideas, and I like that sort of instantaneous stuff that does. And I use this, and I do make my own music. I haven't done much with it. And I'll record riffs and I'll build something around it. And that's when I realised the drumming stuff's really hard, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's like voodoo, how they do all the drums. Even put together a hi-hat stand, I still can't do that now after working in music education for over 25 years and that sort of thing. But I need those people. And it's also, you know, they're my mates. And that's part of it. Yeah. And I've always done that. I've always played in bands with friends, really, or people I know, rather than come and be a guitarist for some. It's always been, let's start a band type thing, mostly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I miss it, I must admit, I really do.
Yeah. So when did the Harry Jordan project start? How did you all get together? Were you all friends beforehand, or?
Well, interestingly, Harry, the lead singer, she's an ex-student of mine. When I used to run a music college in Central Birmingham, I did this for that rock and pop and tech stuff. And she was an ex-student who came back to work for us. And we were just talking in the office, and she said, I've started this new thing. And it was just her and the drummer, Michelle. And they'd just been playing for, Vix and the Mischiefs, Vix from Fuzzbox. They'd been doing some work for her, playing for her. And the two of them had decided to do their own thing. And Hayley had written these rockabilly songs. And they were just doing like drums and her and an acoustic guitar. And they said, we just need to fill out the sound a bit. You know, do you come and have a jam? And my instant thought was, yeah, rock and roll, that's easy. That's the stuff you learn when you first start playing the guitar, that sort of thing. And then you sort of get into it, obviously, and find it's actually a little bit more nuanced than that. And you get to think, oh, God, I'm going to slap back delay and all these different things. So that was late 2016, early 2017. That started. And we started gigging with that lineup of the band. It's changed a couple of times since. Sort of, early 2017, I'd say, we did our first few gigs.
Incredible. I mean, you've got something like 22,000 followers in such a short period of time. How has that happened? I mean, are you running adverts? Has it come from gigs? How's it happened?
It's gigs, and also I think it's something that I realised, which I've never really thought about, is it's really hooked into quite a niche scene. So a lot of it, so there's a real rockabilly scene, which I never knew existed, which we were in at first, and we're not purist rockabilly enough now really to get invited to those gigs, so we don't really get to do quite as much of that. We do the odd gig, and that spreads quite quickly. Hayley's really good on social media, I mean, she works for a music college doing all their sort of social media and recruiting students, so she's quite sharp with that. She's really good at knowing we've got to have content, you've got to have things coming up all the time. And we get, people who turn up at gigs, and we'd always do this, who's travelled the furthest? And we're like, Germany. And we're like, well, we've never even released an album. And all we've done is put some stuff up on Spotify and done that sort of stuff. And I think it's that thing about having a really engaging front person in quite a niche, because I mean, Hayley, she's quite, once you've seen Hayley, oh, blimey, okay, yeah, I remember her. So you don't forget her. And because she's so entertaining, people just latch onto us. Yeah. So we've picked it up really quickly. In fact, quicker than any other band I've seen. I mean, I guess this is probably the first band which has really been in the Instagram, Facebook age that I've really been in. I'd had a bit of a hiatus before that. So it's growing quickly, but you have to work it. You do have to work it. You can't just expect it to happen. And Hayley would do things like, okay, we're going to do some T-shirts or stuff like that. Or she did the thing where you could win a gig in your house sort of thing. And it's just about creating that. And the need to have videos is massive now. Even if it's just a performance video done well, people want to see. People aren't just you're not going to be discovered on Spotify, that sort of stuff. But people will find you on YouTube, especially when you're doing covers. And you'll type in a cover. We do a great cover of Hound Dog, sort of, which then someone's looking for Hound Dog will eventually find. You go down the YouTube rabbit hole, and find like that, and you get more followers that way as well. So it's just working it really.
It is working it. You've got to. It's like a sausage machine. You've got to put stuff in, stuff come out. It's exactly that. And it's hard work. I mean, I work incredibly hard trying to build up, and create content, stuff like that. It's hard.
It's quite pressure, isn't it? You're always thinking, okay, what can I do next? What's the next thing? So, I mean, we did some of the more traditional stuff like the BBC introducing and things like that, the radio WM stuff, and that helps to a certain extent. But it's more about being able to say you've done that rather than the listeners you get, the fans you get from doing that, if that makes sense. Because you just have some gravitas to what you do.
So, I mean, the project is very sort of 50s, rockabilly, as you say, there's that. But there is some songs I've listened to that are kind of away from that. But I mean, with the sort of the 50s and rockabilly thing, is that you? Is that the sort of the style that you normally play, or what are your musical influences?
It's probably not actually, and it's something I've discovered. And actually, the stuff that's moved away. So there's a rockier side, and there's a slightly country side, and there's some nice slide guitar side to it as well. There's a bit of soul in there as well. There's a couple of tracks we haven't released yet, which are a bit heavier as well. Yeah, quite interesting. Which is probably more me. So no, I wasn't really. I mean, I was brought up on Sabbath and Zeppelin.
Wow.
From my dad. My dad, was really into his music, and then my mom was like Cliff Richard and Rod Stewart, and so I and a bit of ABBA. So I sort of got this love for pop as well as this for sort of the heavier stuff. I think the one band that was my one influence was a guitar player, and the guy I love more than any other is fairly unknown to a lot of people. It's a guy called Tony McPhee.
Right.
He was a band called Groundhogs. It's the late 60s, still going now actually. You can still go and see him play. Although I don't think Tony's that well nowadays. They did 3 albums for him, 67 and 70, and it's phenomenal guitar playing of a real getting a guitar and wringing its neck and really using a guitar, really interesting stuff. And they were my dad's favourite band, and that was hearing that guitar going, actually, that's it.
That's what you want to do.
Yeah, and then that sort of, I really also love the Neil Young type of side and the Leonard Cohen and the songwriter. I don't really get the Joe Bonamassas and the stuff like that. I get that they're brilliant, and I totally respect what they do. I need it in context. I need the playing to be within a song that I hook onto. Yeah. When I call Joe Bonamassa with it, that's amazing. 3 songs in, I'm like, I've sort of heard that now. All the tapping acoustic stuff, I think it's brilliant, and I can't do it. But once I've seen the trick, I'm sort of okay. Play me a song. I want the sort of the emotion. I want to be sort of absorbed in the emotion of the song to be taken along. And the guitar to me is always it should always be supporting that. Yeah. A lot of it came from that sort of thing. So I've got that heavier stuff as well. And then the 80s metal scene I was in the sixth form in the late 80s. So at sort of O levels, that is showing my age now. It's the last year to do O levels.
I still can't believe you're nearly 50. I'm going to have to see your birth certificate before we finish. I'm not having it.
Yeah, but that time I thought was really interesting. So I got into thrash metal, as a lot of kids did at the time, which was really exciting as a guitar. And I thought, okay, that's interesting. And that repeat this interest of I want to play guitar. And then in the sixth form, I got introduced to the Wonder Stuff and the Wedding Present and bands like that, and really got into the whole indie scene.
Yeah.
I went to university in 1989 and went through the whole Manchester.
Yeah.
Loads of raves and stuff like that. So I was out doing illegal raves and stuff at university, and that sort of music influence. And we used to go and see Ride every year and bands like that. And I loved that sort of textured ambient guitar that they could do.
Mm.
I also love that really angry Wedding Present. I've got 3 chords and I'm just going to give them hell, and you're going to listen to what I've got to say.
Yeah.
Type of thing as well. So my influences sort of come from all those different things, really.
Wow. But that's interesting, because I have seen some of your videos, and the way you play guitar is almost vocal like. And the interview today has been posted with Kate Schutt, and she's a jazz, and if you watch her playing again, she's very vocal like. She doesn't there's no bends really as such. It's just very interesting vocal lines. Really, really nice. So yeah, I don't play enough of that. I should I try and do the Eric Clapton thing, and I can't do it. So I should really back off and just do some, concentrate on the phrasing, really.
That sort of stuff like that, not every guitarist loves to get a solo, and I do get quite a few in Harry Jordan, but through the clatter stuff, which I sent you, very few solos in that period of time anyway. I mean, so there was the Stone Roses stuff, but T bangs the drum mug there, and I was really into the Stone Roses and bands like that. That had an element of soloing, but it wasn't like guitar solos until the second album. And I think I spent the 80s learning how to do the shredding with all the metal, then the 90s learning, forgetting how to do the shredding, and then coming out of that and going, actually, it's about what supports the song. And I really try and play. I also try and be simple as well. I like the idea that a kid could listen to it and go, "Oh, I can do that." Yeah, I can do it, and I could make it more complicated if I wanted to, but I don't want to overcomplicate it for the sake of some guitarist going, "Oh yes, well he's done this triple bend here," and then it doesn't really interest me.
I tell you, and I was going to ask, because and I thought to myself before the interview, and I thought, Toby won't know Wishbone Ash. He's far too young. But you'll know Wishbone Ash. I thought he's far too young to remember Wishbone Ash. But anyway, it's out now. You were around the time sort of Wishbone Ash. We actually got the Wishbone Ash's guitarist on Monday. We're interviewing him.
Oh wow!
So that'll be an interesting one.
Yeah.
Mark Abrams, he joined a few years ago, and so that will be coming up. So you keep an eye out for that one as well. So So the other bands, Barolo. So Barolo is the improvised psychedelic music.
Yeah. So that was. So we did the clatter. We'll go back to the clatter, I guess, in a bit. And me and the drummer, we're both the same age, we're both at school together. This is the drummer who the guy I was telling you about earlier, who's done a guitar for me, which I will show you. We both had kids at this point. We'd both been doing the toilet circuit with the clatter, going around the country, just doing those gigs. Our support bands were getting signed, like the editors were supporting us, and bands like that, they were getting signed, and all the musicians loved us. We were like, "Oh, the musicians are great," but we were a little bit ocean colour scene. And there was already an ocean colour scene from Birmingham, and it was just never quite happened. So we said, we just got to a point where we said, it's not exciting anymore. So I said to him, well, let's start a band with no songs. Let's just do a band with no songs. And me and him are very similar. We're both self-taught. He's a very musical drummer, in the same way that he's not just, I'm just going to keep a beat, he'll play around it. I said, well, let's get a really good bass player and keyboard player in to hold it down, and they'll just have to follow us, and let's do an improvised thing. So we started that, and we came up with a concept of, and we never quite followed it through to the end, but we made the album, which we spent a day mixing and then recording. Right. So we did it the way around, because you had to get all the sound and then
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Chop it
Okay.
up a bit
Yeah.
that makes sense. Which is really exciting. And we sort of wrote a backstory about it. I wrote this story, I sort of made it all about bicycles. So all of the names of the songs that are on Bandcamp are things like Tourmalet, which is climbing the Tour de France, because I was obsessed with cycling at the time. And lots of different things like that, or obscure frame and steel tubing makes and things like that. And we wrote little stories, and Greg, because he's an artist and filmmaker, animated a booklet. And we sold quite a few of those. It went well. The idea being, the reason we were called Barolo was it was all a marketing ploy. So what we were going to do was saying, okay, you can buy the CD with the booklet, but if you want the super deluxe one, you can buy our own mixed bottle of Italian Barolo wine in like a wooden case with the vinyl.
Oh, wow.
But it was just like we never quite had the funds to invest in going quite that far.
Yeah.
And the problem with an improvised band is, of course, you never book any gigs because you don't rehearse.
Right.
So actually, we didn't end up doing loads of gigs. The stuff we did, I'm really proud of. It was good fun, and we will do it again. We're all still in touch, and we will get together and play again. But we ended up sort of not being able to gig too much because it's a difficult thing to book. You know, I mean, we get gigs like the Arts Fest type of gigs, and things like that. And we ended up doing a weird gig in a coffee shop in Stratford, which was brilliant. And there's a guy there who was like a poet, who was like a Shakespearean poet, performing poet. And he said to us, oh, let's do a song together, which was great. So we get up at the end, we've done our set, and we got up at the end, he got up to do this song. Greg, the drummer, started playing this bass, and we just all looked at each other. He's like, the problem with improvised, once you're in, you're in. Do you know, oh, hold on a second, that's a mistake. And it was like this hip hop beat. We were just like, why is he playing this? And we just started playing something. This guy starts doing sort of this Shakespearean poetry. It's like this horrific middle class version of Rage Against the Machine, all gone horribly wrong. I think that was the last time we played together, but we still do keep in touch and make music. And you know, every now and again, someone buys one off Bandcamp, or I think I think I'll put it on there for free now. So
it's interesting because the first thing I thought was, okay, how do you record? How do you go about, you know, if it is truly, you know, improvised from the start? How do you go and record? How do you do the starts? Who starts? The finishes and things like that? How does it work?
Well, we did what we'd done for the album. So we'd done a couple of gigs. So the way we always used to do is I would start the gig. So I was effectively the front person because I was, out there with the guitar. And we sort of knew I'd generally start with the same riff and we'd see how it goes, just to give people to do it and something to follow and hook into. So by doing a couple of gigs, we'd sort of had a few themes that we knew where we could go. You sort of develop this. So when we would record, you go, do you remember that bit you did? Okay, let's start that and see where it goes. And then you just let it record and go. And Dove, the keyboard player, is amazing at just letting that drift off and carry the keyboard. He had an amazing setup. All the keyboards on that are a MIDI keyboard. Through a guitar amp. No, so through Logic to get the sound into a Line 6 pod. And then out into a guitar amp and stuff like that. And so he could just change between different keyboard settings and stuff like that. So you have to mix first. We literally spent 2 days in the studio. First day we didn't play a note apart from just sound checking. And we just set it up so we could hear each other, which was the hardest bit actually, being able to try and get the levels, because you need to be able to play off each other. So we're all facing each other. It's quite a big studio in just outside of Stratford that we used. Day doing that, then a day we just played. And then we cut it up a bit afterwards. And
you were recording with headphones on, I assume?
Just trying to remember if we did.
Because that'd make it, I would assume, make it more challenging to get that interaction between the other musicians. Do you know what I mean? Yeah,
I think we did play with headphones in the end. But only because to hear the drums. I think I played actually with one headphone on and one off because the drums were in a separate room. We could see it was part of the end of the room, but you had to get that separation because we wanted to be able to mess around with it afterwards. But I had one in one headphone sort of in facing the drums and one out, so I could hear the others.
Wow!
The other three of us were there, all playing in one room. So it was good fun. It was great fun.
I bet. I suppose it shades back of days of Cream and stuff like that when. They'd start off on, I don't know, Spoonful or something like that, and it would end up being something, in the middle, something very different, and then they come back to Spoonful, and,
I there's early Pink Floyd shows, like the Pipers at the Gates of Dawn era. Pink Floyd was a big influence to myself and Greg a lot. We discovered that album, Pipers at the Gates of Dawn, when we were about 16, 17. And God, I don't know how we found it, but we ended up with a copy of that album. We were just like, this is incredible. And this just sounded like some guys had got in a studio and just started playing. And we really loved that.
Yeah.
Not really, there's virtually no reverb on that, apart from the reverb that you use to make an effect. It's not sort of, nothing's blended together on that album. It's really immediate and in your face, and we're like, oh, I love that sound, and we wanted to try and get somewhere near that, actually.
Yeah. Wow.
It was great. A successful thing I think we ever did.
And you've